Hi, I'm Matt Waldman with the Rookie Scouting Portfolio. Welcome to the NFL Lens. We're going to take a look at Tony Pollard in contrast to Ezekiel Elliott. And you're going to see right here that you have 8 offensive players to 7 defensive players when you're talking about who's in the box. You get an 8-on-7 advantage. You're running to the outside here. Even if you get the defender downhill here, from the blocking standpoint, look how well everything's blocked up. And Pollard works downhill here. And you know, when I take a look at this, even if Pollard is a step faster than Elliott, doesn't make a difference when you're one-on-one with the defensive back in the open field who's unblocked. He doesn't work past that man. He gets a nice gain like Elliott. There's really a marginal difference at best on a play like this between the two. And you have a situation which is common with Pollard's tape, where he has the man-to-man advantage, blockers to defenders. Here's another one with a 8-on-7 advantage for the offense. Runs it up the middle. Does a nice job of just sticking it in there. I mean, nothing wrong with that play. He does what he's supposed to do. But again, you have the man-on-man advantage, which it happens more often for Pollard from what I've seen than it does for Elliott. Now here's a 9-on-8 scenario in favor of the offense. It's a 2nd and 3. And you could argue that Pollard does a very good job of getting what he's supposed to in this short yardage situation. It is 2nd and 3. Get what's available to you. But what he does is he doesn't follow his outside puller after seeing the defender work in towards the inside puller. He has this open area to be able to bounce outside and possibly generate a huge play with a block right there. 2nd and 3 near midfield. Why not? At the same time, it might be coached from a situational perspective that when you're down, 28-19, and it's a 2nd and 3, try and just get the first down. But when you look at it from this perspective, you can see the opportunity here that's missed. And the top back here can press this inside, get the linebacker downhill, set that up, and then have the leverage to bounce this outside for a much bigger gain, maybe breakaway play. And when you do have a situation where Pollard is facing multiple defenders in the box, a loaded box, you're not going to get much out of him in terms of power. Downhill here, he's not going to drag many people. He's not going to hit this hole hard enough. He's going to be a little tentative into that crease. When he drops his pads, he doesn't accelerate through to the level that Ezekiel Elliott is capable. Elliott's capable of keeping his feet and helping get a push or being able to get low enough and drive to get positive yards in scenarios where you're just not going to get that from Pollard. And you got to have that from an every down back or a back who's going to run between the tackles far more often than what they ask Pollard to do right now. Now here's an 8-on-7 situation favoring Pollard. And he has a situation where he presses inside. And he's able to cut it back outside. But can he beat the defensive end to the corner? Not to the short corner here. He stumbles out of that, so that's part of the reason. But again, burst is more important than long speed. And we start talking about how fast guys are. Let's talk about burst. Got to keep your feet too. And that burst from 2 plays that I've seen thus far is pretty nominal in terms of difference between he and Elliott. He's not making this corner. It's a positive gain, but it's not a great one. And his burst isn't that much more notable that he's just going to cleanly beat defensive end to the corner here. And again, is he so fast that he's going to be able to make the cutback and beat a defensive end through a crease? Nope, he gets tripped up there too. It's a nice gain. It's a great cutback. But this is no different than what Elliott would have gained on this play either. In fact, Elliott might break this tackle. Now, Pollard might on some plays as well. If you did this 10 times, would he break the tackle 3, 5, 6, 7 times? He would do it a certain number, and I think it would be enough to feel comfortable about him as a contributor on your team. But his burst does not make him any more special of a player that you're going to put him ahead of Elliott in terms of what Elliott can do. And you have to be able to work through trash well. I mean, this is a good example here. The box is loaded, more bodies, not used to that. Fewer of his runs are against high body box counts. He runs into his own blocker right here, is not able to have the control to really set this up in the manner that he needs to, and doesn't anticipate, that this block isn't going any further than what it is. He should be able to gauge this at this point, and he's not able to come through, and he trips over his man's feet. Now, this happens to a lot of runners. It can happen to Elliott too, but this is the type of thing, again, in tight boxes, you got to have that skill to get your feet over the legs of your lead blockers, and this, something that I've seen a few times with him. This is a nice little cutback, 8-on-8 situation. Does a good job if you're just getting downhill and there's decent enough blocking. His momentum carries him through the wrap up by the first level defender and the second level defender there. Good job. Again, a nice gain, but they have an 8-on-7 man-on-man advantage here in favor of Pollard. Again, more of these plays I watch compared to Elliott, they have a one-man advantage or they're even compared to Elliott. And even if there's not a man-on-man advantage, there's fewer people in the box with a lot of Pollard's runs. Gives you a little bit more room to make decisions. You can do some of these stutter step, stop-start movements with a little bit more time afforded you as a running back because there's more space to run. Less of the theory of reading what happens pre-snap, post-snap has to happen here in situations when things are blocked up well enough and you have fewer total defenders and blockers in the box where you can make these types of moves. Here's a play with a 7-on-6 advantage. And once again, more room to maneuver. You can slow down and cut back on these types of plays with less consequence. It's a nice play. I mean, he does a good job. Don't fault him for that. But if you're gonna fault Ezekiel Elliott, then remember that he is in more difficult scenarios. And look late in the play, pre-snap. Watch who runs out on the field right here. They didn't even have enough players on the field in that scenario, and he was a lineman. So again, I mean, this doesn't happen every play for Pollard, but you get the gist. Fewer players in the box, more room to make some of these stop, start, move cutbacks, less traffic to have to negotiate.